Good morning, Wareham, and it is a Monday, November 25, and we have a great show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history this morning, we are going to learn more regarding the debate over closure of maternity ward at Toby Hospital. We are also going to take a look at Papa's Pet Project located in Plymouth. But first, I would like to take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show. So stay tuned because the news headlines and the weather report are next. Well, the Board of Selectmen appointed 3 people to the Police Building Committee. Town Moderator Claire Smith, Onset Fire District Prudential Committee member Charles Kruber, and Paul Girard will now serve on the committee. 5 Police Building Study Committee positions became available following voters' approval of $165,000 in funds for new public safety complex at town meeting on November 28th. The complex will be home to the police department and Wareham Emergency Medical Services, and could also host the other departments. And to another news, the Wareham Cover Marion Regional Refuse Disposal District Committee met to discuss the future of the district. Since Marion Town meeting voted to leave the district, the Cover officials have indicated that Cover might also do the same. It seems most likely the solution will be to modify the district's agreement to reduce the district's operations to a skeleton. The transfer station would be closed, but the district would still be responsible for the ongoing costs like insurance for the former employees and the soon-to-be-closed Cover landfill. Also, community members lit candles, shared stories, prayed, and cried together during the 2nd anniversary of the Church of the Good Shepherd's Addiction Recovery Program. Led by Pastor Dan Bernier, the ceremony commemorated those who have lost their loved ones through the fight against opioids addiction and carried a message of hope to those in recovery. The Church of Good Shepherd welcomes drop-ins at its Addiction Recovery Center on the 3rd Wednesday of every month from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The church is located at 4774 High Street in Wareham. Resources available at the center include recovery support groups, support groups for families, information on detox programs, and free Narcan training. And that's all for this morning news headlines. We're going to take a look at our weather forecast. Well, this is the week where people are going to stuff their faces with turkey, but not yet. So today it's generally sunny despite a few afternoon clouds. We're looking at 51 for a high. Mostly clear sky at night with low around 37 degrees. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, high around 57. Clear skies with a few passing clouds, low at 37 degrees. Fantastic. We hope this is going to be the case for Thursday and also Friday. Anyhow, that's all this morning weather forecast, and right now we're going to take a look at our first featured program of the day, and that is Papa's Pet Project. In case you're looking for a way to express your gratitude for this Thanksgiving, Papa's Pet Project could use your help.
Papa's Pet Project was founded by myself in 2009, and it started as just a kitten rescue because the kittens were being dropped off at the shelter that I was volunteering at.
Located in Monument, Plymouth, the nonprofit rescue provides shelter and permanent homes for stray and abandoned animals.
We average approximately 200 cats are rescued and adopted every year. Our need is always volunteers, foster homes, fundraising, people who want to do some fundraising for us. Some of the vet bills are atrocious, and 3 cats this year had stomatitis, which is a dental disease, and each cat's vet bill was $1,500.
The shelter abuts a pet supply store whose net proceeds go back to supporting the much needed operation. One of the key messages the adoption center pushes is the need to spade.
With cats, they can get pregnant at 6 months, and it's a horrible thing. It's horrible. By 9 months, they're delivering 4 to 6 kittens. They don't know what's going on. They haven't had a kittenhood. You know, maybe some kittens won't make it in the delivery. It's really a horrible thing. And then this little kitten, who's just 9 months now, has to take care of 4 to 6 kittens for the next 3 months, or I should say for the next 8 weeks. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them. So putting a cat through that just because they didn't get spayed is just not necessary in this day and age. It's not necessary.
So when people come here to adopt a cat or a kitten, what are some of the requirements you're looking for?
Okay, that's a good question, because every rescue has adoption applications, and the things we're looking for is that they're responsible. They've brought their animals to a vet when they've needed to be, you know, seen by a vet. That the other animals they've had in the past, they've lived a long life. That their references are good, and that they have a home that will allow pets, which unfortunately is really hard.
The shelter has recently been the lucky recipient of a substantial donation from Walmart, all thanks to Sophia, who participated in a philanthropic challenge through the franchise to raise awareness and funds on behalf of Papa's Pet Project.
For me, growing up, we didn't have pets. I didn't know much about having animals. My husband and I got a nice apartment. We could have cats, and we rescued a little kitten. It's before I knew about shelters. It was a situation where someone had free kittens, and so we took this little kitten in, and he was very sick. We brought him to the vet. It required lots of care, and I got concerned. I was worried, because if he hadn't been with us, what would have happened? So it just began there. I started finding local shelters that needed, whether it be goods, paper towels, anything like that, and we started bringing things to these shelters. Then I started volunteering. I've done trapping, which trapping ferals, which are like the unsocialized cats outside. We've done fostering. I've been a foster failure, which means when it's time for the cat to come back to the shelter for adoption, we just can't part ways and they stay with us. We've done hospice care, which is providing kitties that are terminally ill like a home to be in, instead of, you know, living out their days in a shelter. We just give them that unconditional love.
As for 2020 goal,
the cats that have been slipping through the cracks, and those are the cats that didn't actually get socialized enough to be adopted, but they're not feral and they can't be released, and there's lots of them out there. So we need foster homes that will work one-on-one with the cat, nice and slow, nice and easy, but they deserve a life too. I would love for a rehab to take in a cat that the people that are trying to recover can have a little love and success, because once you make that bond with a cat, especially if it's scared, there's nothing like it, and it changes you. It changes your heart, and sometimes that's what people need to get over the tragedies that they've suffered. And a lot of people can identify how scared a cat is. So rehabs or nursing homes.
So you talked about that this costs a lot of money and
Yes.
a lot of time.
Yes.
So what is the most rewarding part of this?
This, this right here, this little one. This little one is saved. She's fixed, and she's ready for her new home. And she's going to be adopted with her buddy Hammer. And they get along, they play, and as soon as they pick their family, they'll be having a great life. This is the reward.
I hope you learned a lot from Papa's Pet Project. They are located in Plymouth, and it really could use your help Right now, we are going to our next program of the day, and that is Pretentious Pickle. Take a look. Hello, this is Queen Banda from WCTV. Today we're in Pembroke visiting Lorraine, the owner of Pretentious Pickle. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi.
Lorraine today is going to show us how she makes her fan favorite pickled sweet and sour beets right here. So stay tuned because this is going to be a one crunchy, delicious meal. How did you get started?
Well, I pickled all my life. Used to always pickle with my dad, and we have a lot of family recipes that were passed down. And then somebody said, you know, you should start giving this out to people and see how they like it. And that's how it started. Just started doing farmers markets. The way I came up with Pretentious Pickle was really weird because I was meditating. And all of a sudden, the name Pretentious Pickle came in my head, and I was like, I wonder what that is. And a few minutes later, I was like, that's me.
Out of nowhere, just the word Pretentious Pickle.
Yeah, just meditating is awesome. That's always the way I'm meditating. So yeah, I came up with the name, and I thought, well, you know something, I'll just see where it goes. And that was about 2 years ago, and I've never looked back. And we just kept going from there. And the more you do the markets, the more people start asking for things. Okay. And they're like, well, can you do this? Can you do that? And people love to give you their recipes too. And when we make our beer pickles, because we use Mayflower Brewery a lot, and we source them for all of our different beer pickles. And this one is their new Thanksgiving. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, what do I want to use for a brine with that will complement? That's a very dry tasting beer, so I had to come up with something like that. If I wanted to be a little sweet, or so that took a little bit of work.
Okay.
And you do like 2 or 3 brines before you finally get it right. And you ask people to try it too. My children usually like to volunteer.
Yeah, they're good for that. So I'm looking around here. You can pickle almost anything.
Yes.
I mean, I'm familiar with pickled beets, and of course familiar with pickled pickles. But I'm looking at green beans, right?
Yeah.
What we have? We have green beans. We have red onions right here. We have garlic. Oh my God. We have cauliflower in here. So it's like all this.
I just look at things now and I'm like, yeah, I'd pickle that.
Is there anything that you cannot?
Not that, I mean, you have to use a little bit of sense with it. You wouldn't try and pickle, I don't know, just something silly. But if it's a vegetable,
Okay.
99% of it you can pickle.
Yes.
In the summer we do the pickled watermelon, we do okra, we do things that are seasonal too. So with the holiday coming up, like this is some of our selection for our Thanksgiving. And we'll do pickled beets, we do the pickled cranberries, and we also do a cranberry gin pickle, and we use the dirty water cranberry, it's a bog witch, their gin, and all of that will be just for Thanksgiving.
Very good. Now tell me what's your biggest seller?
Bad Larry's. Bad Larry, yeah, that's this one right here. And it's a spicy string bean, it's a spicy dill bean. When you open these, they're very crispy.
Okay.
And we call them Bad Larry's because my cousin Kim was eating them one day. She's like, I love that Bad Larry. I go, okay, well, there's that. So we call them Bad Larry's, and they are fabulous and Bloody Mary. But my favorite is definitely the beets. And even when I'm cooking them, it's like 3 for the judge or for me. I love beets. So working with that, it was a funny story because probably about a month and a half ago, there was a woman at the market, and we were talking about the beets, and I'm like, these are my pride and joy. I said, and I take a stone, my sister Patty gave me a nice stone, and I grind a clove up in it, so it's almost a dust, and then I sprinkle it into the brine, and she goes, oh, the old Amish way. I'm like, I didn't make that up. No, that's what I was like, I'm like, I made that up. No, they've been doing it for 100 years. I was like, well, I didn't know them, so still my idea. But I had no idea that somebody else this is not good.
Oh my God.
So in here we just have.
What did you break it?
In here we have sugar, ground clove, whole clove, cinnamon, ground allspice, and vinegar.
Are you sure you don't turn that into juice or something, a warm drink or something? It's not even good. Oh my God.
I know it does smell good, doesn't it? It's delicious. I love this brown. I love the way it makes the kitchen smell. Yeah, a lot of people do. It is, it's a good product.
Which shouldn't be bad, right? Because it's not like I'm stuffing my face with a cake.
No, it's good for you, maybe a little sugar, but nothing to worry about.
So thank you so much for joining us in the show. Again, I had Lorraine from the Pretentious Pickle Company making pickled beets, you name it. From WCTV, I am your host, Queen Banda. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us this morning, and we're going to continue with our regular programming. So how about we take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do history.
Today's cell phones are not only an extension of our arms, but a life tool. Hello, I am Maureen Farrington from Advantage Custom Apps. I am here today to talk about a certain app, a tool that will help you navigate your way through the Wareham community. The WCTV app places your local community in the palm of your hand. The app is a place where you will find local events, town meetings, local and school sports, community interest stories, compelling interviews, and most of all, the ability to shop local. Connect to the Wareham app by going to your web browser and typing in wctv.app. And then, once you bring up the web link, you have the opportunity of adding WCTV's app to your home screen. Once you download the app and save it to your home screen, you will then have the opportunity to, with the touch of a finger, hit the call button, which we call WCTV, the refer us button. You can refer the app to your friends and families. There's a Facebook share button if you'd like to put that on your Facebook page as well. And here is the menu tab. On the menu tab, we have YouTube videos, new program proposal, events that WCTV is hosting, a photo gallery, contact button, and can lead you right to their website. We also have a Shop Local tab. When you touch on that, you'll see the local businesses that you can frequent. Also, there's an About Us tab telling you some information about WCTV, their hours and directions. This here will take you right to their Facebook page. There is a donate button if you would like to donate to WCTV, and a join button that will let you join their community. Many local establishments are listing their business on the WCTV app. And you can too. It's a great way to showcase your business to your existing customers and your potential new ones. For a nominal fee, you could list your business on the Shop Local tab as well. A percentage of that fee goes to fund a scholarship for an outgoing senior. So be in the now and get the WCTV app on your home screen.
Well, thank you for being with us this morning. We are broadcasting live from our WCTV studio. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, traffic, and more information. And now for a moment in history, let's take a look at where we were today in history. Okay, on this day in weather history, the storm of the century made landfall with the eastern half of the United States in 1950. Unprecedented amount of snow was piled onto the Appalachian Mountains. Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia were covered in snow and winds reaching to 140 miles per hour. In some areas were pushed to New York and New England. 160 people were killed by this freak storm. Also, for today in Army history, the U.S. attacked the Navy American, a village of Shane, in 1876. This was a retaliation against the natives who had killed General Custer and his men at Little Bighorn months before. The 1800s saw a lot of conflict between the U.S. and the Native Americans as the country expanded west. This attack on the Sheen was the beginning of the end for the Native American resistance against the U.S. forces. Also, for today in International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, first started on this day in 1999. Oh my goodness, this day was first started in the Dominican Republic to honor Maria Teresa. One second, that was Maria Teresa and Minerva Mirabal, three sisters who were murdered in 1960. The United Nations adopted this day of recognition decades later to increase awareness and offer help to women in abusive situations. As usual, for today's birthday, shout out goes to Christina. Okay, and that is all for this morning in History segment. To learn more cool historical facts, you can go online for history.com. And that marks today history segment. We are going to take a look at one more featured program of the day before we jump to the coffee segment. So here is Finding You Century. Faced with the need and the passion to give back, a brother and sister merged their talents and took action. They founded Finding You Sanctuary, a nonprofit rescuing dogs to help support veterans living with post-traumatic stress.
The first thing I do is I help people connect with their dogs, and the dogs connect with their people. And once that they've done that, then I show them how to read their emotional state of mind, and how that, once that happens, you can change what you do, because change is inevitable to change what we don't like to see. So after that, then we have the connection to our soul, which is what we all want, to feel at peace, to have joy again.
With decades of experience as a dog behavior specialist, Lean has a unique method of working with misunderstood dogs. Through her success-proven method, a veteran with PTS can find common ground with a rescued dog.
Yes, I work with the dogs that are so misunderstood, and aggression is the biggest one. But dogs have a big reason for being aggressive. It's what we show them the way. And dogs follow as a pack member does. So the leader, which is usually the human, hopefully, when we have issues or things don't work out right, the way we treat them, nice, good, indifferent, dogs follow us and they learn from us. The biggest need that I found was that veterans with PTSD, their biggest issue is the trust and respect. They need us to respect them so that they can learn to trust and be with us. And their healing, I know, will begin if they can be with dogs that are almost like them. And that's how you pair them. Dogs will choose most of their owners if we allow that. And the ones that choose us, usually the ones that make us work the hardest to be with them because of their behavior. And aggression, fear, insecurities, it's a very big deal with both misunderstood dogs and veterans.
Finding You Sanctuary has two main objectives: reducing the rate of canine euthanasia and improve the coping skills of veterans within their new reality.
So in Massachusetts alone, there are 80,000 diagnosed cases of PTSD. There's several different types of emotional wounds or inner wounds, And then there's TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. And then there's MST, which is military sexual trauma, which most of us would be surprised to hear that 50% of those reported cases are actually male. So there's a lot of issues out there, and what Lynn is able to do, helping people and dogs have a deep connection, and then the dog mirrors the emotional state of the person.
The one thing I do see is that what animals are so capable of, and that's letting everything go, being in the moment. What I see with veterans is how amazingly strong they are, how amazingly giving they are, how they have probably the best understanding of camaraderie, how to work together, how to be in the community. They are amazing as far as giving. And for me, I don't know, I've just seen that veterans with PTS is the biggest thing for me to watch is to help them, help themselves by using animals. It's just my biggest thing that's what I see.
Once funding is established, the barn will be transformed into a space that will foster the program in addition to housing rescue dogs.
And we have a multifold mission. One is if you care about dogs and wish to rescue
Help
them.
to work with that,
The other one is if you care about veterans and wish to give back to them, serve those who have served us. We also plan on eventually expanding into first responders and so on. And then there's those who believe that there's a connection that needs to be made with the community at large, because it's not just the veteran, it's also their family and friends, and all the people around them are affected by what they've done while they're in service and
when
after
they come
that
back.
point.
Yeah.
So there's three right there. And then the other one is just an overall connection, person to person, animal or person to nature, and the dog is that connection and the way through to that. And that's what Lynn is special about, helping people find that connection.
For more information about Finding You Sanctuary, please visit them online to find out how you can help veterans earn peace at home. All right, and so right now let's jump straight to the coffee segment, and this is the re-airing of an interview we did a couple weeks ago with the Massachusetts Nurses Association. In addition to a couple of mothers, they shared their testimonies to why the predicted closure of maternity ward at Toby Hospital due at the end of this year is going to be very problematic, and it's going to cause a lot of problems, health problems for the residents of Wareham and those nearby. So take a look. South Coast Health has announced on August 29th of this year that they were going to close their maternity ward at the end of this year, that is December 31st. Since then, nurses, community have been rallying against that particular decision. With me today are mothers, nurses, and the former vice president of Massachusetts Nurses Association in the studio to talk about this, to talk not about the emotional side of this argument, but also the logical side about this argument. What is at risk? Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are the former vice president, but you're still on the board of the Massachusetts Nurses Association. Could you please talk about the logical side of this debate, this argument? What is at stake here? What are they actually saying?
So, in all honesty, what's at stake is the safety of maternal and child health in the surrounding community of Wareham. So we have been seeing over the last several years these corporations that own community hospitals, for-profit or non-profit hospitals, closing essential services in our communities. That has ranged from the closure of an entire hospital, North Adams, to Quincy Medical Center, which was a large hospital that's serviced, hundreds of thousands of people in the Quincy area, to psychiatric units out in Worcester, Burbank Hospital psychiatric units. They are proposing closing ICUs out in the western part of the state, along with psychiatric services. We are seeing it all over the state in all types of, units, whether it be pediatric or maternal or psychiatric or, medical surgical units. And this is a trend that we are standing up against and making the communities aware of and trying to get something done that would provide some pushback and some power to the communities and the people that they serve related to the services that they should be receiving from the hospitals and from the corporations that own those hospitals. Because as it stands right now, those corporations hold all of the power, and there is no mechanism to stop the closure of these essential services. Right now we hold public hearings, but in the end they still close those units.
So we have heard from South Coast what they have stated as the reason behind the closure. They said that the birth at Toby Hospital have been declining to 22%, and they are seeing about 300 and something birth each year. And so they feel that that is not the community's focus, and they are diverting their focus to the emergency care with the extension of the emergency room. Now, Joyce, you have been a nurse, and you're still a nurse there. You have worked at Toby for very, very long time. About what?
24 years.
24 years. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us about the reality? What is actually taking place in Toby?
At the hospital, well, care is as usual, exceptional. So we provide a service that's not good or not great, it's exceptional. Over the years, we have had the best outcomes in the state of Massachusetts. We have one of the lowest C-section rates in Massachusetts. Our breastfeeding initiation rates, our breastfeeding exclusivity rates, and these are all things that we get reimbursed from, that the Joint Commission recognizes, and they want hospitals to have these numbers. We do it. We have been doing it for years.
Speaking of care, I have Madison. Madison, you recently gave birth at Toby Hospital.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. So could you tell us, was that a conscientious decision, or you just ended up at Toby because you couldn't predict it?
No, it was definitely a calculated choice. That's where we wanted to go. My sister and I, our mom was a nurse in the unit for about 10 years. So we were both born there. And so we knew as soon as, even before I was pregnant, I knew that's where I wanted to have my kids.
Okay, and what was your experience like?
It was fantastic. I was given every opportunity to let things happen on my choice and in my decisions. I wasn't forced into anything. I had an incredibly long and intense labor. I labored for about 40 hours before the baby started not tolerating the labor anymore. But even at that point, my husband and I were given the power to make the decisions for us and for our family. It wasn't, I feel like at other hospitals we maybe would have been pushed to deliver or have a section by the end of a certain shift or anything like that, but we weren't forced into any decision at all, which was incredibly powerful for us.
Okay. Now, Devin, you're an expected mother. Is this going to be your first time?
No, this is actually my third.
Okay, your third.
Yes.
Now, your first two children were delivered at Toby?
Yes, they were.
Okay, so you decided that your third child is also going to be delivered.
That was my plan.
That
yes.
was the plan.
Yes.
But because they're closing at the end of this year, you're not going to make the due date.
No, because she's due January 30th, so I'm going to miss the cutoff.
Okay, so tell us what that felt like.
It was really devastating. My mom sat me down, I thought, to give me the news, and I just started crying. I was so upset. And which I know is personal, and everything will work out. We have options, but it's just such a loss because I had such incredible experiences with my first two girls at Toby. And like my sister Maddie said, I didn't just end up at Toby. It was something, we live in the area, but I've always wanted to deliver there, and I had such a good experience the first two times. And then also just knowing that I've grown so close to this team of women who work at Toby Maternity and helped me deliver my first two kids, and I watched them work with Maddie. that it's just hard to think like I'm so ready for my third that I won't be with that same tight-knit group of women who I feel so close to.
Now, South Coast did say this. They said that they will be directing all of the inquiries to New Bedford, St. Luke's Hospital, where they are seeing about 1,500 babies yearly. But they're saying they're going to dedicate the entire maternity ward there for this particular change here. And they sent me a message. I asked them to be here today, but they sent me a message. In that message, a few lines, they said, this decision was not taken lightly, knowing so many have treasured memories of starting or growing their families at Toby. However, every decision we make at South Coast Health is driven by the needs of our patients and the community we serve. So do you feel they have done enough? Telling you to go to New Bedford, is that enough? And if not, why not?
I think it's fair, and like we're not left with no options as a community. Like you said, you can go to New Bedford, you can go to Plymouth, there are options around here. But it doesn't seem, they presented it, I felt, particularly in that statement in August, that don't worry, you're gonna have exactly what we had in Wareham, we're gonna move everyone to New Bedford. And talking to some of the women at the maternity ward and providers, that that's not necessarily the case. It's not gonna be this smooth transition where everyone's just gonna pack it up and go. So knowing that I can go there, like I'll be safe is nice, but it's not going to be the community that you've grown so close to and want to be with and feel comfortable around. So
I mean, I'd just like to make a point too, is that while Devin and Maddie have the capability to be able to go to New Bedford for these services, they would rather go to Toby because of the exceptional care that is given there. But we have a number of women who live in these communities who don't have the option of making those choices. They, don't have the ability to have the transportation or the means to get to a hospital outside of their community. And what we have seen when we have the closure of services such as this, which happened in Taunton at Wharton Hospital, when they closed the maternity services there, is that we have women who are presenting in the emergency room in acute crisis, because not everybody has an easy delivery. So when South Coast talks about, I think, what was it that you said, that they, every decision that they make is driven by the needs of the patients and the communities they serve, I would say, I would call and say, no, I don't believe so. I believe that corporation, every decision that they make is based on profit. And we should be doing everything possible to expand services at Toby Hospital, it sounds like. So, where they give such exceptional care and women come from all over to get that exceptional care. It's astounding. When she talked about the rates, the low cesarean section rates at her hospital, we had nurses in the audience at the DPH hearing who work in maternity units throughout the state who were astounded at that number. They wish that they were able to achieve that at their own hospital. So let's be clear, this was not driven by taking a look at the needs of the community. If it was, they would actually have been announcing an expansion of services and not the closure of services.
Okay, so they are expanding in terms of expansion of services. They're expanding the emergency unit, as we talked about, because they feels that the need in our community in Wareham is geared mostly towards that. Let's talk about the numbers. They say the decline or childbirth, that's what is pushing this decision. Being on the board of Massachusetts Nurses Association, could you tell us what that means? I mean, how much money are they really losing to the point that they need to close this ward? Or is just there's another motivation behind this decision?
Okay, so it ends up being fairly complex. So a lot of times what we see is first of all, there are trends with maternal and childbirth rates throughout the state. So we could be seeing, in particular, just a dip in the rate, but then it will go back up. So sometimes you take a look at the numbers, and that's the reason for the numbers. Another time is oftentimes these hospitals will make a calculated approach as to a closure of service. They will siphon off services and means for particular units because they'd like to close them and potentially expand elsewhere. It's about where they want to put their money. So what we saw as a trend is, for instance, I think some of the women that we have talked to have talked about VBACs, which is the ability to have vaginal birth after cesarean section. Those services were moved a number of years ago because you need to have an anesthesiologist on 24/7. No one has said that maternity services are cheap. They are not, because they require an array of services. So you need a pediatrician, you need an obstetrician, you need an anesthesiologist, you need nurses, you need OR capabilities, all of those types of things. But what we are seeing is that they will expand services elsewhere, which then siphons off services in another area, and then they get to then announce at some future point in time when they haven't replaced nurses who have left, or women have had to go elsewhere because they aren't capable to have a certain service at this particular hospital. Oh, well, the numbers are low now. But
so you're saying these numbers are staged?
I would say that they are probably skewed because, let's face it, they did expand services at St. Luke's, and I would say it was a calculated decision on South Coast to move the services at Toby Hospital over to St. Luke's. Which I think is something that we have been seeing throughout the state, and they have the capabilities to do it, and then they come out and they say, well, the numbers are low. And the thing is, these women, when they give birth at their community hospital, they then bring in their families for care at that hospital. So it is more than just giving birth to your child at a particular hospital. It is about the entire family who lives in that community, who then take advantage of all the services that that hospital offers as in the future.
Hello, my name's Andrea Fonseca. Just to give you a little background about myself, I am a nurse. I actually work at Brigham and Women's. I live in New Bedford, so born and raised in this area. We have good ties to Wareham, familial ties. I had my first daughter at Toby. I would have had my second daughter there, except I did have a successful VBAC, but I was forced to have that VBAC at St. Luke's. Something that really struck a chord with me throughout this is, the fact, and this is countrywide, this is not just here in Massachusetts or here in Wareham, all over this country, the reimbursement rates for maternity care is so low. The reimbursement rate for vaginal delivery is about half of what it costs a hospital. So I know there are real financial issues on the hospital side. I agree community hospitals, no matter what, need to service their community. But why is it that this country doesn't value women's health? Why is the reimbursement rate so low? I really think that if we're really going to change this, this is a ripple effect going on everywhere, especially in the rural part of this country. It's awful. But until we really get the people with money and power to value women's health care, to value women, this is going to keep happening no matter where it is. And I'm not sure what we can do about that. I think this is a place to start. This is one little piece of this puzzle. But this is a huge puzzle. And the puzzle is going to keep being dismantled if we don't stand up for ourselves as women and get other people to value us as women. That was the biggest thing that I really discovered during all this.
So could we talk about the power of the state? During last hearing in Wareham, Department of Public Health was there to facilitate the hearing. What power do they have in this? What do they get to say?
So the Department of Public Health, anytime a corporation who owns a hospital announces a closure of a service, they are obligated to provide notice to the Department of Public Health, who will then hold a public hearing to hear from the stakeholders, which is the patients in that particular community related to the services. They will then deem whether or not that is an essential service that is needed for the community. And what we have found is that Department of Public Health, they will deem a service as essential to the healthcare needs of that particular community. And in the end, the hospital corporations then turn around and they say, thank you very much, DPH, and we're still closing because they can.
And what power does the Massachusetts Nurses Association have?
So we have filed legislation at the State House. It is called the, basically it's an essential services bill, which would require hospitals, it would require, as opposed to, I believe it's a 90-day notice from we are closing to when they have the capability to close. It would expand the amount of time that that they would have, so up to a year, I believe it is now. Not only that, but DPH would have the ability to, yes, hold hearings, but that hospital would be limited to the expansion of services while they were in this period. Because that is what we have been seeing. They announce closure here and they expand services elsewhere. So it's a good bill, and I think people should take a look at it, and I think it's something that's comprehensive and will actually put some teeth into what the community citizens of Massachusetts can expect.
Have you explored any compromises with South Coast? Have you sat down with them and say, I get it, you're losing money, or this is not a lucrative part of the business, the service is still very essential to the community, how about we do this?
What would you say to that, Joyce? I mean, how do you compromise on women and children's health? How do you compromise on the safety of patients? How do you compromise on
the available care in the community where women can't get to another hospital?
So when we are talking about the need of those who do not have the means to make the journey to New Bedford from Wareham, a 20-minute journey to Wareham for any means, how do you defend that we need to include them in this decision and we need to think of them in this decision?
So what I would say is that hospitals are obligated to take care of all patients. We don't put our patients into categories related to socioeconomic status or gender or any category. A patient is a patient, and they are obligated to provide care to everyone. Bottom line.
We also, there are patients in the community of Wareham that choose to go to Boston for whatever reason. It could be that's where they choose to deliver. It could be that maybe they're a high-risk pregnancy that they need to go to Boston, and for some reason they can't get there. And so they show up at Toby. We have to provide care. We have to stabilize them, and sometimes we can't stabilize them enough to transfer them to the facility that they needed to go to, and we have to deliver them. We have to be ready, prepared, and have the knowledge to take care of them, stabilize them, healthy, and then transfer if we have to. So if this service is not here providing service to patients that maybe can't get to Toby or get to St. Luke's or even get to the hospital that they're supposed to deliver at, they need a place to have a safe delivery, and that they don't only need it, they deserve it.
Could you tell us about your experience, Devon, when was it your first or your second?
My first.
Your first, and you chose to be here in Wareham, or?
Yeah, I did. I chose to be here.
You chose to be here in Wareham, but the baby was coming way too fast. And
She came very fast, yes. So even though I have a car, I had transportation, and I know New Bedford isn't that far of a ride, but I had her within minutes of arriving at Toby, so if I had been driving to New Bedford, it's highly likely I would have had her in the car. So it's just so essential to have this service in local communities where people are expanding their families, and to have a service at the community hospital, because that's our community. People are having children, and sometimes things don't go according to plan, or babies decide to come pretty fast.
And we don't know. We don't plan.
No.
We don't tell when they're coming. We don't know when they're coming. If we knew that, we wouldn't be here, right? Babies come when they come. They come out how they come out.
So when Toby is expanding the emergency center to accommodate the trend in our community, for those who feel that since we are going to have a well-equipped emergency room, for those unplanned, untiming birth, they can just be directed to the emergency room. Tell us why this is not a good decision.
The emergency room provides great care to their emergency patients. The skill to be able to take care of a mom and a baby that's going to be delivered safely is not something that they're trained in. It takes, it takes years to develop the feeling confident and taking very good care of these moms. They're not going to come into the emergency room, and maybe there's going to be a mom who presents and she has a breech baby. For those of you that don't understand, that this baby is presenting either feet or buttocks and not head. Typically that's an emergency, and then they would need to have an operative delivery. And if it's not safe to transfer that patient, someone's going to have to do that delivery. Who's going to do it?
And the emergency room is not equipped for something like this.
They don't have the skill or the knowledge.
And not having the skill or the knowledge means someone's life. And in this case, 2 lives.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. So where are we? Today we had a rally. Where are we? How optimistic are you in this fight? Is the point getting across, and do you think Toby is going to make the right decision?
I don't know if Toby will make the right decision. They have the ability to make the right decision. And I think we, at the very least, are bringing more of an awareness to the citizens of Massachusetts that these corporations need to truly provide an entire spectrum of services to the communities that they serve, because that is what a hospital does.
What can our community do to help, to aid you in this fight?
I think they need to make calls. They need to make calls not only to their legislators, but they need to make calls to Keith Hovan, who is the CEO of South Coast Hospital System, and let them know that this is a poor decision, and that they don't agree with it, and that I think the community needs to fight back. They need to stand up and they need to fight back. We're going to do everything possible to continue the fight.
Well, thank you everybody for being here this morning to give us a little light about this situation and to explain things into details for us to understand what is at risk here. And I'm sorry that you will not. Maybe things will change.
Maybe.
So to my viewers, thank you so much for being with us, joining us in this discussion. I had Joyce Heisley Pikella.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, she is, she's still a nurse at Toby Hospital. She's been there for 24 years. So you have to pay attention to what she says. And also Karen Coughlin. She was the vice president of Massachusetts Nurses Association. She's still on the board. So
And still a nurse.
Still a nurse. Okay.
And still a nurse.
And we had Devin Jamora. Okay, and she's an expected mother who, depending on what the decision will be, she may or may not be delivering her child as she planned at Toby. And last but not least, Madison Smith, who just delivered couple weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2
yep.
weeks ago.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And she had a great experience at Toby, and she wishes that for every single family, for every single woman. So thank you. There's plenty to understand here, to listen to, and as you have heard from Karen, that you can join in the fight through calling those responsible. Make sure that they understand this is something not to be taken lightly and you are paying attention. I am Queen Banda of WCTV, and I wish you all a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning for another episode of The Morning Show. If you missed us, this particular program will air this evening at 6 p.m. We'll also be back here on Wednesday with more. Thank you, Wareham, and have a pleasant day.